Today we have some special guests, Matt and Marlee Benson. Let's kind of get into the origin of the documentary.
There wasn't a hard timeline on this. Like, we're going to tell the best story possible.
If you want to see their project, you go to a little thing called Amazon Prime. Ever heard of it?
When we found our lanes, it worked very well, but it took a while to get there.
It wasn't perfect, that's for sure.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Dialogue Podcast. Today is a good day. It's a special day. We're going to do a dialogue differently than normal. A lot of times it's Shaylin, and that's always a good time. Today we have some special guests, Matt and Marlee Benson, who are with us. Hey, don't you have an applause sound effect?
Yeah.
Let's try that again. Let's try that again. Let's try it again. Today we have some special guests with us, Matt and Marlee Benson. Come on. And if you know Matt and Marlee, you know why that applause took
well
place.
Deserved.
If you don't, you're about to know. All right. So Matt and Marlee are friends of mine. We go to church together here at ONE.CHURCH, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of their background and a project that they're working on right now. I say working on; they've completed the project. If you want to see their project, you go to a little thing called Amazon Prime. Ever heard of it?
I've heard of it.
Okay. So put together a documentary that I think everybody should see, and we're going to talk about that today. But welcome, guys. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good to have you here. So I'll kind of start with what it is, and then we'll kind of, I'll ask you guys some questions. Brandon, along the way, feel free to chime in with any questions that you might have. So I met Matt and Marlee. You guys are business owners, right? So the business you own, I've told people about you, and I try to explain your business. I probably butcher it.
Marlee still can't get it right.
Okay.
So it's okay.
I think Marlee should explain it.
I feel better now.
I think Marlee should explain it.
That would land on me.
So it's like you guys run the back end of gaming, right? So like there's video games that people play.
You're not a big gamer, Greg?
I've not gamed in a very long time.
Mortal Kombat.
Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and Tecmo Bowl. After that, I'm not much of a gamer. But I don't judge those who do. I think that's great. But now you can play somebody in another country, right? You play on the internet, and then you guys manage the back end of that. Is that correct? And then, so tell us about your business.
You want to give it a try?
No.
Wait, can I try?
Yeah, go ahead. Pitch me on my business.
It is the organization behind tournaments, and you take it away.
Hey, Matt, tell us about eFuse. What do you guys do?
So basically, eFuse is a software platform that runs video game competitions. So it started out with people playing Call of Duty, people playing Fortnite, and basically all of the systems to play online, it's really hard to know who people actually are. Like, you don't know if you're playing a woman or a male in different parts of the world. And basically what we do is we authenticate the player that's competing. And so when you're playing at a college event, we make sure you're actually enrolled in college. Or if you're playing in an all-women's event, make sure that you're actually a woman. So it's like the validation behind online gaming tournaments. And so started it right out of school, and it's been 2018. So what is that, 7 years?
Yeah.
7 years. So how'd you come up with that?
So I'm a lifelong gamer.
Okay.
Not any good, so I had to go build a business within it instead. But the short version is I went to school at Ohio University, studied entrepreneurship and finance, always knew I wanted to start a business, but didn't know what it would be. Ended up in the College of Business, you actually take a semester off and you do research on an industry that the professors assign you. And so my semester, they assigned us esports and gaming.
Wow.
Ended up developing this 180-page report with a couple of my classmates. And at the end of it, I was like, I actually think there's something here. And honestly, I was looking at it through the lens of traditional sports, right? Like, you guys grew up playing sports. Mm-hmm. I know Marlee did too. I did too. And all of the infrastructure that's around youth sports and collegiate sports, none of that existed for gaming. But most people don't realize gaming is bigger than the entire music and movies industry combined. It's a massive industry with a lot of people playing. Wow. And there's very little infrastructure. And so that idea was where it came from. And then I graduated. I worked at a venture capital firm for 6 months to a year, and then jumped ship and started eFuse, and the rest is history.
Wow. So you had a desire when you went to college to be an entrepreneur, to start businesses? Was that just you felt you had a knack for starting things? Was it, where did that come from?
I felt like entrepreneurship is a change agent, and I got to see that. Like, I looked up to the Steve Jobs of the world growing up. Like, I would read books on folks like him, and I looked at it as like, man, how many lives did he impact? How much like new technology did he bring into the world that has just shaped culture? And I was just mesmerized by that. It started off like with little things for me. So I actually, like, my first business was I would hire a bunch of my buddies and we'd go around, basically buy a bunch of glow sticks and then go to different communities on the 4th of July and like sell glow sticks.
How old were you?
Probably 11, 12,
Oh, wow.
something like that. I was pretty young. I also, kind of funny that it's come full circle now, but one of the first things I did too was I would go to dance recitals and record the dance recitals and like edit them and then sell burn the DVDs and sell them to all the dance moms and dads. And
That's awesome.
so now it's come full circle with the documentary, but yeah, so just little things like that. But over time, it's just continued to evolve. I've gotten more involved in the tech space and, it happened to be gaming.
That's cool. Marlee, how about you? What was your background?
Yeah, I graduated from Cedarville University, studied communications. And I guess overall, like, I would always say I'm a very creative person. Like, I've always had that. Like, I always wanted to be in art. I always wanted to create something. But I also, when I got in creative circles, I would feel frustrated because there wasn't much organization. So I found myself in the middle of this, like, I love order, but I also love creativity. And so I felt like that was my lane. And so it kind of ended up, I did operations for a long time at a marketing agency, so it kind of married my love of creativity, but also need of organization. And now I just freelance. But from there, that's kind of like, I feel like my passions in the mix. And then I've always been super curious. Like, I was the kid, my parents were always like stop talking to strangers or like asking too many questions, which again has come so full circle doing the documentary and being able to do interviews. But like, my childhood dream was to be on the Today Show. That was like, I would love to sit in that chair and ask people questions. Even for a while, Matt and I had like a nonprofit. It was called Only in Appalachia, where we would basically interview people and their stories from the Appalachian region, which is where I'm from, and kind of like display those on social media and in different articles. And so that was super fun too. But I feel like my lane has always been that, like, right in the middle of those two things.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you guys meet?
Varying versions, not really, but basically, I was going into my sophomore year of college. She was going into her freshman year. There was a nonprofit called the I Believe Foundation, and basically what they aimed to do was go into Appalachian cities. So there's 13 states that are within the Appalachian region, and they would choose a specific city, and they would put together a youth camp. And so we were both interns at that youth camp as staff members. Ended up meeting each other. The very first time I saw Marlee, she didn't see me. It was one of those from like across the aisle. Ended up staffing a few of the different camps together, and slowly but surely broke down the walls and got her to recognize me, and then eventually started dating at the end of that summer.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you guys, let's kind of get into the origin of the documentary, right? So you guys are business owners. You're running the business. You show up at church one day, and you get this spark of an idea. So why don't you talk about that? What happened?
Yeah, so a little bit of a backstory too. So when we were dating, we never lived in the same city. We always lived 2 hours apart. And so when we got married, obviously we moved in with each other. And at that point in time, I was going to another church. I was living in the short north at the time, so I was going to church down there. But when we got married, we said, hey, we should really like try to find our church home. Like, we know we're going to be in Columbus. Like, we should try to get planted. And so frankly, we bounced around to a number of different churches, and then ultimately found y'all at One Church and fell in love. And I think at the time, it's been about a year that we had been here and going to service. And the service that we were sitting in, where the idea ultimately sparked, was when G. Scott, who has been on the podcast and has been obviously very involved in the One Church ecosystem, he preached one Sunday, and we kind of were just mesmerized by his testimony, mesmerized by the stories he was sharing about what was happening in the locker room. And then also getting to see him baptize a lot of his teammates. We were just really moved by that. And we went home that afternoon after church, and we're huge documentary people. We just binge documentaries. And I think we had just finished watching Swamp Kings with Tim Tebow and Urban. And Marlee actually was like, it'd be so cool to have a documentary that's that quality, but that is in the locker room, really showcasing the testimonies of these guys, and then what happens during this football season, which at the time nobody knew what that would look like. And
So for those that aren't familiar, so G. Scott is he's a tight end, was a tight end for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and he and I had built a relationship. He was leading a Bible study on the team, and I kept, every time we would meet up, I was really just blown away at his hunger to grow in his faith. Even his understanding of the Bible. He was relatively new to the Bible, and his insights and the work he was putting in, clearly, the Bible's a big, complicated library of books, and it's a lifetime of learning. But the way he was approaching it, I was like, he's very serious about what he's doing. And I just kept seeing him getting, when someone's good at something, when they're gifted, they put in the work. You just see him just take leaps and bounds. Like, they get good fast. And I was like, man, this guy's got a real gift. So I was going to be out of town, and I was going to be out, I think, like 4 weeks, and I had 3 slots filled with speakers, and I still had 1 left. And I thought, maybe G would want to do it, And so I asked him, and he actually was like hesitant. He's like, I don't think I'm ready for that. And I was like, I know you're ready for it. So we worked on a message together, kind of built around his testimony, and so he spoke that Sunday, and I remember I was out of town, so he hits me up on like Tuesday and goes, hey man, I've had this vision of a bunch of my teammates getting baptized. I've had it for a while, and he's like, and I'm telling them about this, and they're all gonna come. He's like, do you think could you? He actually asked me to come baptize him. I said, well, I'm out of town. I'm not coming to baptize, but I was like, we can have somebody baptize, but why don't you do it? And so it kind of came together quickly. And so then that Sunday, he did a great job. I mean, it was a powerful message. But on top of that, he baptized a dozen or so of his teammates, and then a number of them were there as well. So it was kind of this organic thing that was starting to combust, and you guys were witness to it and going, someone ought to tell this story. And then at some point you looked in the mirror, was like, maybe it's us, right? And Marlee, that was kind of your, like, the spark of the idea, right?
Yeah. And I think, like, going back to the storytelling, we both always loved that. And so honestly, it was kind of a joke. Like, we were kind of like, yeah, that would be cool. Someone should do that. And then a couple hours later, I think both of us could tell we were like, our wheels were turning. Like, we were going about our day, putting the groceries away, but we were like low-key keep coming back to the idea of like, well, how would we do it? And what would be in it? And so Matt actually plays basketball with a guy who owns a production company in town. His name is Doug Joseph, and he was the director of the film. And so we give him a call. We knew he was a believer, but a lot of their work is based in brands and commercial work. And so we weren't sure, what this would look like for them. And he was immediately like, actually, this is like my life's work. It's marrying the things I care most about. And so we're like, okay, well, let's see if we can do it. And so the next step was raising the money to obviously like support the production and make it happen. And within a few phone calls, I think, what was the turnaround time on that?
Within a week,
we had raised all the funds needed to do the documentary.
Wow.
And so that alone was like, okay, God, like the lights are turning green. It seems very obvious that this is what we're supposed to be doing. And so from there, we kind of just took off. Like, it was a very investigative approach of, we heard their fall kickoff event happen on campus where the players shared testimonies and students came. So we're interviewing these students like, okay, what happened? Like, you got baptized. And the coolest part was basically everything that did make the documentary was so impactful too, of students being like, yeah, I did get baptized in that moment. And they took me to a room and they gave me a Bible and they explained the gospel. And now I'm in a community group and this has gone way beyond this moment. And so I think that's when, growing up in Christian rooms, you can see like flash in the pan moments like that and think, is this real? Mm-hmm. And so I think for me, hearing that, I'm like, man, this is real. Like, this story is so good because it's true. And so we just kept going with that. And the more interviews that happened, the more people got in editing rooms, which I need to shout out Brandon. At some point we have to. He did tremendous work editing on this project.
He edited his heart out.
He did. Him and Sal both. I mean, yeah, it is what it is because of them. But yeah, so that's kind of like the origin story.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's back up a hair, because I was, you are entrepreneurial by nature. You're an idea person, right? A creative person. And when you start a visionary is someone who can see something done, right? So in your mind, even though you didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, you're like, okay, I've just watched Swamp Kings. I just watched these people be baptized. I can see this story being told. I can see it being delivered. So in your mind, because you can see it done, you now go, we have to do it. And part of over time, you go, when you have so many ideas, you have to start getting choosy because, I think in my early days, I had so many visions and things. And once I saw it done in my head, I was like, this has to be done. It would be wrong to not do it. And at times took on too many things. And so then you have to learn how to be selective. What have you guys learned about that? Like, how do you know when you have an idea, you have a vision of, hey, what if we did this? What if we did that? It could be this. And then you decide, no, we're going to choose this and we're going to sink our teeth into it. And we're committing to it. How do you know which ideas to commit to? What was it about this idea that you're like, we're doing it?
Mm-hmm. We have a mission statement for our marriage, which is like everything we do, we want to do it for the glory of God and the good of others. So I think the first box was like, does it check that box? Like, does it fit within the mission of what we want to accomplish within our marriage? And then the second thing was, is it something that we think we're uniquely positioned to do? And even though we're not filmmakers, we have a lot of the relationships to make it happen. Within eFuse, like a lot of our investors are Buckeyes. And so we had connections to Ohio State. We played basketball with Doug. We're fortunate to be tied to a number of different resources to bring it all together. And so I think it was, does it check the box of our mission? Do we have the unique positioning to pull it off? And then the last thing was taking a step and like, God will open the door, I'll close it in a way. And it's like, let's take that first step. And if there's more green lights, we'll keep stepping. And if not, maybe it's not for us, and it's a balance there because there's some times where you hit adversity and you just got to push through. But then there's also, hey man, this just feels so right. Like we should keep stepping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, there's the pragmatic side of it, like you said, where you go, you know what you guys bring to the table in terms of, again, ideas and then specific skills that would contribute to being able to execute. But then you realize too, hey, we have no idea what we're doing in this space, but we happen to know somebody here. So there's like you can see how it could come together. And then there's also some kind of sense internally, like we think we're supposed to do this. And it's hard to quantify that, or, there is a pragmatic, but there's also just sort of an intuition, spirit-led part of it that's like, yeah, we could do a lot of things, but this really feels like ours to do. This feels like an assignment in a sense that we're being. Is that how it felt for you guys?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's the conviction. Like, there's a lot of things I've tried to do or wanted to do that I didn't really have a conviction for, but this felt like a Holy Spirit conviction. Mm-hmm. Like, and there was even challenges along the way where I think we both felt really misunderstood by people that maybe weren't as close to the project. And that's kind of, the rubber meets the road. And you have to decide, is this something I'm supposed to do? Or is this like a challenge that's coming against me to like stopping this? And I think every time we got in that position and we took it to prayer, it still felt like we were supposed to do it, even if that meant not everyone understands why.
Yeah.
And I think also like this project, we're finding our faith so much of being willing to be misunderstood because it's for the sake of something that's greater than us.
Yeah. It's funny. I think back on when Shaylin and I made the decision to come here and plant the church. It was something that we actually went through a process. We went through an assessment. It's called a Ridley assessment. It's like a 17-point assessment where they take you through to kind of, in the Christian world, they would call it like an apostolic gift or a church planting gift, which is essentially entrepreneurial. Can you go into a new place and build something that doesn't exist? Is that kind of, are you gifted for that? So they took us through that process, and we did well on the
Yeah. What they say your score was?
Yeah,
Greg's a little questionable, but Shaylin's great.
No, they said. Tell them what they said.
Well,
I'll tell them. They said this is the best score we've ever seen.
Yeah. Long story short,
they said you crushed every other.
They said we think that God's given you the gifts to do it. So, But that being said, it was something we could do this, but should we do it? To me, is more important. Are we in this together? Are we aligned? Because I feel like I can take on the challenges as long as she and I are aligned on it, right? So again, some things, whether it's your marriage, the fact that the two of you are like, both fully in, like, I really want to do this. And I remember even saying to Shaylin, I know you do anything for me, but I really don't want to do this unless you're doing it with me. Like, we're doing it together. I'm not going to drag you there to do it. I wouldn't do that to you. Like, you have to want this as much as I do. And she totally did. So, and now each couple, you know, kind of, that takes on its own shape based on the nature of the relationship and the individuals and what is their part of it. But the idea of doing it together, and again, for some it may be in a marriage, and others it may be business partners that are going, let's take this on. Is everybody really passionate about this? Like, do we all equally feel like, you know, we would sign ourselves up for it instead of someone else signing us up for it, you know? And I think, you know, there's a lot of, like, being honest with yourself. You know, you see things, we've had opportunities and different things that we're like, yeah, we could do that, but one or the other is not like I could, but I don't know that I would, like, get up chomping at the bit to do that. And so when you find those things, and then you have this deep sense, like you said, the spiritual side, the eternal side of it, to go, we can put something out there that we know is going to glorify God, and it's going to do a lot of good, even more good than we'll ever fully know. Like, what the seeds that this documentary and this work planted, you're going to hear testimonies, and it'll always be exciting. But there's going to be, for every testimony you hear, there's going to be thousands that you'll never hear and never know about. Yeah. And so when you kind of have all of that together, you know, it's like the dead center of the Venn diagram. It's like all of it coming together. And you're like, okay, like, let's do this. And then the other thing too, I remember when we came to do this was, in order to kind of work through some of my anxiety around it, I had to think about what if it doesn't work? So what if it fails? And I came to peace with that. I remember thinking, like, you know what, it might not work. Maybe we get there, we put our whole heart and soul into it, and we just can never get it off the ground, and we have to, you know, punt. You know, we have to back up and punt. We got to go do something else. And I remember coming to peace with that and going, you know what, I'm okay with that. Like, I won't be embarrassed about that. Like, I'm sure I'll be sad or bummed or whatever, but I was like, I can look myself in the mirror. I can look my kids in the face and go, you know what? Mom and dad went for it. Like, we did what we believe we were supposed to do, and it didn't work out, and we learned a lot. But there's nothing to be ashamed about when you count those costs, you come together, you try to do the right thing for the right reason, let the chips fall where they may. And even if it's not what you thought it was going to be, there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's, you know, so then you almost become fearless. You're like, you know, I've looked failure in the face, and I've made friends with them, and now here, you know, let's go for it. So, you know, a lot of respect for you guys. Like, a lot of people would go, hey, that'd be so cool, someone ought to do it. What's for lunch? Move on. And yet you guys decided to take it on.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Unless you have one.
No, go ahead.
Was this your first time working together as a couple on something of this magnitude? And then, if yes or no, like, what kind of challenges or lessons were involved in that? And then also, Marlee, you were 9 months pregnant as filming was wrapping. So, like,
NBD.
Casually. So, like, what it definitely was your first time parenting together. But then you're also really, this documentary is starting a business. Like, so kind of what were the challenges in that, or lessons, or?
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts.
Go ahead.
You can add on. Yeah, well, I'll say on the pregnancy note, it's kind of funny because, I mean, there's so many things about this that it's like, okay, God obviously did that, because I wouldn't choose to be starting something this large, you know, what was it, like 6 months pregnant? So I think that's another thing you look at and you go, well, it's a really inopportune time for me, but, like, that's probably why God did it, you know, like, it's unexpected. But I think us working together, so something of this magnitude, yeah, first time. We've obviously done things with each other in the past, but this was the first time from start to finish we were working on it together. And in the beginning, it was not easy. And I think it's because we both have a love for control when we're doing something like this, to be totally honest with you. And so the problem-solving approach was very different. And so we had a few frustrating conversations, which were pretty communicative. So we'd talk it out, but it was like, this is not going to work. Like, both of us trying to control, like, how this goes isn't going to work.
Well, you're making art too, right? So it's a creative thing. So, and different people have, again, two different, very different types of art that are both good, but you're going like, we can't do it and not do it.
Right.
We can't do it both. In some way we have to make a decision. That's a huge challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah. One is not right or wrong, but we have to go with one. And there is this study that I learned about, and it made everything click for me. And thankfully God put it in a podcast so I could hear it very early on, which made the rest of the project fruitful. But I think it was Lisa Bevere who said it, but it was basically a study done about men and women and their development in business. And this doesn't need to be it could be a bigger conversation, but basically the study goes, they watched children play. So they would watch girls play and they would watch boys play. And when the boys would play, they would take Legos, dolls, whatever it was, and they would stack as tall as they could and as fast as they could. And that was their two objectives to play. It was how fast can I go and how big can I build it?
And then probably knock it over.
And and then destroy it.
Having
Right.
two little boys
That's
at
what
home.
my
Can you
kids would
affirm
do.
that?
Yeah, they would knock it over.
Yeah, you're really prime for this. And then they would watch the girls play, and the girls were more, they cared more about the nurture and the relationship. So they would build a family, and that family would function, and they would do something, and everything they built was for functionality. Relational, how it looked, the aesthetic. And so one is not bad or good, it's just very different. And so they were translating the study to the workplace of how if you look at a company with all males, they'll probably be to scale and they'll be growing very fast, but their culture is probably, this isn't all cases, but in some cases it's probably not the best culture or the best relationships. Or you look at a business that's all females and they might not be expediting in growth, but their interpersonal relationships are thriving. Mm-hmm. And so the more I reflected on that and looked at both of our skill set and kind of reflecting back on the documentary, I felt like my lane was the relational aspect, making sure everyone who was a part of this felt valued and cared for. The story was honest. It was true. We weren't cutting corners to make it bigger than it seemed to be. Where Matt's skill set was more fitted for how do we distribute this so enough people can see it, and how do we do this most efficiently? And so I think when we found our lanes, it worked very well, but it took a while to get there too.
Well, it's, you actually go all the way back to the beginning of the Bible and the creation of, the Bible says that both man and woman was created in the image of God, right? So the idea that you have both of them in the image of God, and then, like you said, those two, the idea of what would be considered, traditionally male, masculine traits of whatever it is, efficiency, building, growth, competition, things that we would, not that every man is that, or
right.
Women can't be that, but again, that's generally what we do. And then the more feminine traits of things like communication, relationship, nurture, all those kind of things. And I think sometimes people don't always connect the dots that they are both in the image of God. And, the beauty of how God created, two becoming one, that it's, you need for, I think, health and fullness, you need both of those it working together. And if when you lack that diversity in whether it's a company or a family or anything, you're doing one thing well and you're missing this other component. And of course, diversity, division, it could be divisive, right? Because you're going, but I see it this way. This is what I do naturally. This is how I see the world. And it's why it's so important to start from a place of valuing this thing that's different than you, or something that doesn't come naturally to you. And just even by starting by going, no, I think it's really important. Even though I may not fully get it or it may not come naturally to me, I see it's really valuable. And because of that, I want to go through the conflict to accept it, get it right, figure out how do we work on this together. And that's, even if you go beyond those, traditionally male, female traits, you also have things like in a relationship, you might have one person is a risk taker, the other person more plays it safe. You have one person that's a saver and the other person's a spender. And if you don't see the value of the other person, then the spender just feels irresponsible. It feels like, oh, dude, that was a dumb use of money. And the saver just feels like a tightwad who doesn't want to have any fun. If you start from that position, then we're not utilizing the beauty of our differences and understanding the way I see it. My perspective has a ton of value, but so does yours. And learning how to make that compatible is not up and to the right. It's a challenge. It really is. It's full of hard knocks. And I'm sure in some ways this project, like you said, maybe disrupted that in some ways more than other things, but in many ways probably served you guys really well in helping you to learn how to do that even more and better. Became a catalyst for that. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was such a gift, honestly, to at this point in our marriage, and like I feel like we're still pretty young, you know, to be able to like have that experience to now when we look at new projects and new things, we kind of know our lanes. There doesn't have to be that discussion of like, well, how are we going to do this together?
Mm-hmm. Well, something like this too that it's got a deadline or a bunch of deadlines. So in a sense, we're under pressure. Like, so we have to make a call. We can't just sit and talk this to death. Like at some point we're gonna have to, we have to resolve these things. So that pressure adding, can create frustration that, makes it hard to communicate and all of that. How'd you guys navigate all that?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't perfect, that's for sure. I think that what was interesting about this project is if you would have asked, I think even you, but other folks that were involved, there wasn't a hard timeline on this. The perspective was we're going to take our time and like we're going to tell the best story possible. But going back to the wrestle, I was the opposite. I was like, we need this done before the end of the season.
Hit this window.
Yeah, we got to hit the window.
I felt like there was a timeline.
Oh, well, I was the one. I was calling you. Marlee didn't know that part, but no, I'm kidding. But I think it absolutely is important, and that hard charging, like it made us make decisions, and I think ultimately got the project done. Because otherwise, you could ideate. There's always more that you could do. We watch it now. We're still like, man, we could have tweaked this or tweaked that. But at some point, you just gotta rubber meets the road, and you got to get it out. Yeah. So that was a constant wrestle, both between us, but also with Brandon on the production side, the other production folks, but then also with talent. Like Trey and G as an example, very busy people, right? Like they were in the midst of the season, then they go immediately into the draft. Yeah. Then they start OTA. Like it's just a very busy time for them, and they've never met us too. Like we're cold reaching out to them as part of this process. And so how do you, in that high velocity environment, build relationships when you're doing it over Zoom calls once every couple of weeks, And so that's where Marlee was really great, is helping to, but I'm by nature and just like go, but Marlee would make sure we send follow-ups and we'd say, hey, by the way, guys, this is what's happening, keeping them in the loop and keeping them informed. And I think all of that coming together made the project a success.
All right, so you start following the team, you guys start pulling this documentary together. When G preached, it was in the summer, so they hadn't even reported for camp yet. There was all this stuff on, $20 million roster. They were ranked in the, I don't know if they were number 1 or number 2, number 3, somewhere. They were near the top. So they were definitely a national championship contender. They start the season off. They lose fourth game, was it, to Oregon on the road. And then they lose to the team up north, the Michigan Wolverines. No one thought they were going to lose that game. In fact, I was watching the game. I'm like, okay, they're not playing very well, but I was actually kind of like prepared for us to win and still be annoyed because it was too close. But I'm like, we're not going to lose. We're just going to win by 3 or something. And then we lose. And then everything's going crazy. Like, it was like, fire the coach.
There was a huge fight on the field.
Oh,
like
dude,
pepper
mayhem.
spray.
Total mayhem, right? So, okay, you guys are shooting a documentary. You're making this. You're like, God, we feel like you nudged us to go do this, and then the season feels like it's falling apart. Like, where were you guys at in your headspace at that time? Like, what were you thinking?
Funnily
I'll tell you where we're at physically. We were at the game. So that makes
Marlee's only ever been to 2 Ohio State games, and they've both been the losses to Michigan the last 2.
No more, Marlee. No more. No more.
You're banned.
Throw Jonah off the boat.
No more.
Definitely were like, oh man, do we have a documentary anymore? Honestly, and I hate to say it, but we were definitely, what's the storyline going to be, right? Like, where do we go from here?
Were you guys literally thinking like we just may not even do this? Like, we may not finish it?
I think no, I don't think we ever questioned that, but I think we were like, man, like there was a question that we had to really wrestle with at that point in time, which was we knew if they won the national championship, there would be a bigger megaphone around the documentary than if they lose to Michigan, don't make the playoffs, as an example.
Right.
So the question that we had to continue to wrestle with was, if this was for just one person, would it be worthwhile to make? And we kept coming back to yes. And frankly, like even some of the production crew that worked on the film were not believers. And so we got to see them interact with folks who were believers and like get to hear their testimonies. And that example kind of gave us the strength or the perseverance to keep pushing forward and ultimately see it come to fruition.
So if they had, so they lose to the team up north. If they go make the playoffs and they go play Tennessee at home and get smoked at home, and what would the documentary, like, what would you guys have done? Like, what would the documentary have been? Just essentially going, how do these guys handle, with their faith, handle huge disappointment? Like, what would you just would have told what the story,
probably,
right?
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, you have an idea coming into a project like this of, like, what it could be, right? Like, they could start of the season, you're thinking, oh, they're going to win the national championship. It'll be the biggest thing ever, right? You don't think about them losing to Oregon. You don't think about them losing to Michigan. And there's a line, I think it's X, that says in the film that he says that this is a story that only the Lord could have written. And looking back on it, I think that's so true. Like, none of us could have pictured the highs and lows and the conflict that would have taken place. Mm-hmm. But because of it, it became a bigger story than any of us could have even imagined.
It's better. It's better with them having lost those games. It's better with them having to actually in real time in front of the entire world and within their own team deal with having your heart broken, being really disappointed, feeling like you let your teammates down or you let your family down or whatever, like it all being on the line. Because that's real humanity.
100%.
That's what we walk through, right? Like, people dealing with disappointment. It's not here's a cool story about a team that blew everybody out and never had a test and whatever.
It's too Disney. Like,
yeah,
it's like
it's not real life.
Yeah,
totally.
And so, the way that played out couldn't have been better in that sense. And then you see when I remember seeing a thing. Jack Sawyer, who's from Pickerington, after they lost to the team up north, I heard he was like at Roosters, and people were like heckling him. Like he's like, dude, I couldn't go. He's like, I couldn't go out for wings. Like, the fans were so bummed. That's another whole conversation. Everybody needs to chill out and remember that these are human beings and all of that. But
he was also on the field, like, they were planting the flag, and he was the primary enforcer of, you're not going to plant the flag in the field. So clearly he's not pumped about losing to Michigan.
He's 100%. He's feeling it personally. Again, when you're a competitor or you're a leader, you feel responsible, even though you can only play your part, but you still feel like, man, maybe I could have done this. So anyway, the idea of having to deal with all that and then go, it's the whole old adage about when you squeeze something, what's inside of it comes out. And so they're being squeezed. And what came out, right, was really incredible. And it was what then pulled them back together to be able to go, you know what, we are super disappointed. I think I remember in the documentary it said they're like, we had 3 goals.
Yeah.
And the first 2
didn't happen.
So are we going to just implode, disintegrate, point fingers at each other, and spend the rest of our life that way? Or are we going to, in spite of our disappointment, pull ourselves together and go, we can't go do anything about the past, but we're going to take this thing on in the future with everything we've got? And
to me, one of the coolest moments in that was they talk about this team meeting that took place after the team up north game. And
right.
What was so interesting is we interviewed a lot of different folks that were in that room. Trey and G seemed to have this overwhelming peace that everybody else picked up on. And as we all know, that comes from like knowing God, knowing Christ.
Identity.
And so when that moment happens, everybody else, and not to say that everybody else felt this way, but like generally the room was, we are absolutely broken to our core. We don't know where to go from here. But you see 2 guys who have been in the fight with you, who have this overwhelming peace, and they get an opportunity to step up and share why they have that peace. And then consequently, the entire team says, you know what, I want to learn more about that. Yeah. I want to be more a part of that. And they dedicate the playoff run and the rest of the season to the Lord. And I think even if it's just those folks in that room, their lives being changed, what an incredible testimony of what Trey and G and the peace that they have really are.
It also makes, I'm not a football player. Haven't played since Little League.
Were you one of the 150-pound linemen that you were talking about?
No. I don't probably. We did go undefeated in second grade, so watch out.
Soft flex.
No one will ever forget that.
No one will ever. A lot of people have forgotten about that. But actually, you said in the documentary, and you are a football player, so I'll quote you. I won't say my own words. Like, you watch them play harder for each other because of that relationship. Like, you talk about in the documentary them blocking, like, and celebrating after blocking for each other. But like, that's where one thing in the editing that I don't know if it came across just because there was so much good content that we had to cut, but like, they were so motivated to not have the next game be the last game that they're playing with each other. Like, they're like, dude, I freaking love Trey so much. I don't want this to be the last time we're playing football together. And it's that faith bond in the locker room and off the field, that then on the field, it's like, no, I care about this more than just because I want to win. I care about this because I want you to win. And like that, I feel like makes you show up to a different caliber than if you're just doing it for yourself. And even like, you could probably add a lot of wisdom to this, Greg, but like, even if I'm doing it out of fear that my identity is, or the thing that I have my identity in is going to suffer if I don't succeed, is a very different energy than I'm going to do this out of the love of the game, love of my teammates, and because I'm in a flow state because I believe that this is where God has me.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it was interesting because when they were talking about the loss to the team up north, G said something powerful. He goes, we did something we didn't normally do. We were playing from a place of hate, and I was thinking about that. And really, when you think about hate, if you were to like start peeling back layers, right? What's on the surface is hate, but what's under it is fear.
Yeah.
So if you get under hate and you start going, why would you hate anybody? Well, there's a fear component. If you have a person you hate, if you have a group of people you hate, if you have something you hate, it's attached to some sort of fear. So if you were to dig into that, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, or
right.
I'm not their psychologist, but I would say, the idea, the fear that we would be the class right. that never got the gold pants. We're the class that never whatever, and now our legacy is going to be you guys couldn't win the big game or whatever. So with that, being so afraid of that being your identity, your legacy, the thing people always have on you, the thing you can't go undo and you'll never live down, that fear then turns into a hatred. Mm-hmm. And, those guys had, built everything on loving one another and going, why would I stick my face into the chest of this rushing 250-pound linebacker? Not because of hate, because I love this guy and I love that guy. I want to do my part and I'll put myself on the line. But when all of a sudden that's exchanged for hate, it's really the fear that drives that, right? So, and I love that part of the documentary because guess what? All of us deal with that. All of us, your motivation can switch on you really quickly where, hey, I'm doing this because I want to glorify God, and all of a sudden I'm doing this because I want to glorify myself. I'm doing this because I love this. No, actually, I'm doing this because I'm afraid of that. Mm-hmm. And it can happen on you so subtly and quickly. And for them to admit that and to talk about that and go, look what happened when we did this. And it ended up leading to not only a failure in terms of the score, but it really turned into a life lesson. I mean, you're hearing them articulate like, we learned that this is not the way we want to live. We want to do this differently. So I thought that was awesome. You mentioned earlier, Matt, you were talking about, or maybe it was Marlee, you were talking about stuff that didn't make it into the documentary. So for those that aren't familiar, it's a 3-episode documentary. It's live on Prime, Amazon Prime right now. You can shut us off and go watch it if you want. It's about an hour and a half to binge watch it. Is that right?
Yeah, it's like 45 minutes each episode. So
okay,
what's that
so
math?
It's a little less than 2. Yeah,
a little less than 2 hours to binge watch. But just, like days and days of footage and things that didn't make it in. And you're like, there's some great things that didn't make it in. What are some things that did not make it in the documentary that you guys think about that was like noteworthy, that you're like, hey, this was something we had to keep to the time, but we would have liked, that you'd like people to know about?
Mm-hmm. I feel like we should all give an answer to this, Brandon included, because he's the one that was probably making those decisions.
cut a
Yeah,
lot.
Brandon was going through the 80 hours of footage.
How many hours of
It
footage?
really was.
Dude,
like
I
80
don't.
hours, 80
I
hours.
don't. There were, how many interviews did we have?
And
Probably
that's not
20?
including game footage. That's just
Oh, the game footage is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
That's
But
a
So you're talking 3 days of footage.
how many interviews do we have? Probably close to 20
at least
that are
yeah.
that are ranging from 45 minutes to 3 hours. Like, it's a lot of footage.
Yeah. Yeah. There are like 2 moments that come for me, and they both have to do with Travion. Great guy. Such a great guy.
Like the
And,
nicest guy in the world.
Dude,
Like,
he really has
so
the joy of the
sweet.
Lord.
The nicest
He
guy in the world.
does. The joy of the Lord, for sure, is in him. And so, it's actually Jacob Bird from Access the Walk. We interviewed him. His interview didn't make it in the documentary, but he talks about Travion's character, and he was very up close to his life, and so he got to see a lot of the things he did that no one will ever see. And doing the interview, I was like, man, I can't wait for people to hear like all of these great things he's done that no one would know about. Like Travion didn't even tell us about him. And then we didn't even put it in the documentary. So I feel like I'm walking around with all these things I know about him that no one does, which probably makes it more beautiful that nobody knows. So I think like a lot of those, like, and I won't even say it here, but like acts that he did that no one will ever know behind closed doors. That was like super sweet, didn't make the cut. And then another one was when we interviewed Trey here, actually, just the building over, well, it's not there anymore, is it?
No, it's in
The last act.
Yeah,
It got torn down.
we said, look, we can never top what just
Right.
happened in this. We're tearing it down.
Yeah, so the last interview that took place there. Okay, so I'll make the long story short. But I was 41 weeks pregnant. I really didn't want to be induced. That's like my only thing around the pregnancy. I'm like, I'll do whatever. It's going to be great. But like, I really don't want to get induced.
By the way, please tell me you have good pictures and videos of you as pregnant as a person can be interviewing people. Please tell me this has been
There's a
captured.
few.
Some
There's a
BTS.
few.
Oh, okay, good.
There's a few. And the funny part about this day was, okay, so we get there. It's like, I don't know, 8 a.m. I'm 41 weeks, feeling it. We're about to interview
They had just won the
Trey.
national championship.
Yeah, like one of the bigger interviews of the documentary. And so I get a call, and I'm like, I had to step out real quick. I'll be right back, and we'll like get this rolling. It's my OB, and she's like, hey, we're gonna induce you tomorrow, 7 a.m. And I was like, oh, is this like a conversation? She's like, well,
Is that a question?
not
or
really.
Like,
We really think you need to come tomorrow. Like, we looked over your chart. Like, it's probably important that you come. So I'm like, okay, cool. No big deal. And so I'm like walking back inside. It's sinking in. I'm giving birth in less than 24 hours. And I also have to sit down and be very present for this interview. And so as I'm talking to Travion, meanwhile, we cut for a second, and I'm talking to the makeup artist outside the trailer. And she's like, you know what? If you do anything, just like don't get induced. It's like the worst. So it's like the fear is like starting to build, even though I wasn't afraid before. Now I'm like, oh great, I'm shrinking in fear. And so as Travion's talking, we like later on in his interview, he's talking about when he met Jesus, and he closes his eyes and he's like, all I can say is like the fear that felt so like entangled around me. I was so afraid. It just dissipated like in the sight of knowing Jesus, because joy replaced the fear that I once felt. And I don't think that line is in the documentary, but in that moment, it was like everything I needed to cling to like revived me.
Wow.
Of like, oh, okay. Like I actually don't have to fear. And I was memorizing the verse, like God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And so the way that God can orchestrate something to where people in their living rooms are going to watch this and feel something, but the way I was sitting in a chair interviewing Travion that no one will ever see, that felt like a moment that was just God and I in the room using Travion to speak directly to me. There were so many moments like that like no one will ever know. And so the whole thing, it just felt so intimate and personal. And I think that's why we both can confidently say like we were supposed to do this. And it's not like we were supposed to do this so like it could be amplified. We were supposed to do this because we needed it.
So
you know,
is
just
that
as much.
something you that you thought about before you did it, in terms of like obviously you just think, oh, hey, this is something we want to put out in the world, and then in the middle of it, you're being so personally deeply impacted.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a surprise? Was that something you guys expected, or was it something that just along the way you're like, wow, this is like sincerely part of our discipleship?
I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it to the level that it happened, because it was so many things. Like not only was it like pregnancy and that whole thing, but there's also this whole other package of doing a documentary like this. Like, yeah, we're sitting here with microphones and our names are on the screen, but at the same time, there's a lot of hidden hard work that no one will see, and that's okay. But then we had Lily, who's 8 months now, which is crazy. But in those early trenches, as they say, of newborn life, like there's so much hidden work no one will ever see, but there is the joy of the baby. And so it's like, it was such an analogy of like, we're doing all this hard work on the documentary that no one will ever see. In parenting, we're doing all this hard work of like newborn life, but like this is the reward. And so, yeah, God has intertwined that so much, but
That's awesome.
yeah.
Can I say something about that feeling that you're experiencing? As an editor, like that is such a valuable part of the editing process, because it's the target on the wall that I'm now making the video to for myself. So like, I remember the last 5 minutes of the documentary, which are probably my favorite 5 minutes in the documentary, when I heard the song, like just like it was probably midnight and I was sitting in my room and I like started tearing up because I could feel, I'm getting emotional now. Like I could just feel the presence of God so strong. And it literally was just a song playing on like a royalty-free music platform at midnight, and like my wife's sleeping and like I'm trying to be quiet, but it's like I could feel the presence of God so strong. So then when I go to sit down with the sequence in an empty Premiere profile, I know what I'm trying to get someone else to feel. And that's like it's like if I can make them feel what I feel in this moment, then that's where I know that I'm going. So like even though that moment is something that is special to you and might have not made it into the film, I guarantee you is crucial in helping even develop like what is the target that we're marching towards, or what is the feeling that like the peace that God gave you in that moment is the same peace that we're trying to get someone to experience when they're watching the documentary. So it's like that's what's forming the target on the wall that then ultimately when you're making the product you're walking towards. But that to me is such a crucial part of the process of creating something. I'm sure it is for a sermon as well, is like you have to experience it before you can articulate it and hopefully help someone else experience it. So like it is such a, I feel like that's such a valuable part of the creative process, is even like knowing, well, what am I feeling? Because I want to make someone else feel the same thing that I'm feeling.
I go ahead.
I was just going to add to that. There were so many different people that had their hands in this, and like that was one thing that you crafted, right? Like that is a segment that you built, and so many people are going to feel that moment the same way you felt it. But then there's 25 other moments throughout the film that somebody else crafted that they felt in the moment that you might not feel.
Yeah.
And what's been so cool, it's only been out 72 hours, but there are so many different moments that people are picking up on that have spoken to them from the film. And I think that's what's so cool, is there's so many voices, so many testimonies, so many feelings that are in there that each one is speaking to somebody different.
Yeah, when someone tells me their favorite part like wasn't the last 5 minutes, I'm like, wait, what? Like
You're like, I worked all night on that.
no, it's not even like, it's just like, to me it's so special, but like people are all watching it through a different life experience and different lenses.
I remember watching it the first time and I was like, how are they going to end this? Like, exactly, like how is it going to end? Because you've got this obviously football story, but you've got this really deep message being communicated, and I was almost nervous watching it. Like, I hope this doesn't end flat. And
I was nervous making it because I didn't want it to end flat either. So I was like intimidated.
And then I watched it, and the ending was better than what I could imagine. I was like, so props to you, man. Like, it really, I thought it did an incredible job pulling everything together in a way that was sincere, was true, was powerful, and that was a beautiful piece of art you made there.
Yeah.
I want to give space to come back to the question of like things that didn't make it in, but I want to kind of follow up on what we were just saying, because I think anybody who steps out in faith doing something for God, you're thinking about the result of the work, whether it's going on a mission trip or writing a book or doing a message or making a documentary or a piece of content. And in that process, you're completely focused on the outcome and the result. And what you described is very true. You're going, oh my goodness, this is impacting me deeply. And maybe so focused on, what we're trying to accomplish, the end product, that maybe don't take the opportunity to sit down and actually articulate what did happen to us in this process. Like, what is different? Like, what's different about it? What did we learn? Or what was either transformational, like big time, or maybe it was a tweak like this. Hey, I see this a little differently now, or I'm a little bit of a different person. Like, how would you guys say you have grown or changed, or developed? Like, how are you different on the back end of this project than you were on the front end, either as people or how you think or what? How did this change you?
I have a lot more respect and admiration for conflict, particularly within like godly community. By nature, I think like being the founder of eFuse, like it starts with me and like it ends with me in some cases, right? But in a project like this, you're working with so many people who are stakeholders and are decision makers in many ways. And there were a lot of times that with talent internally, with the editor, like there's just conflict, and it's people's natural tendency is to lean out of the conflict, but it's the best moments were when we leaned in, and I think it's just given me a newfound excitement for like wanting conflict in a way, because I think it made such a beautiful piece of art that we're all really proud of.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah, and I think each moment of conflict came out in unity, which is on everyone having the Holy Spirit and following God. Like that's what made it. But
Yeah,
I think
trust.
for me, it's like, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to add to that. I think that's a great point, because they were, particularly with like Trey and G, like they were a huge part of like, we couldn't have pulled it's their stories in
Yeah,
many
it's
ways.
not our
So
story.
it's not our story to tell. We're just trying to be stewards of it, and having the conversations with them. I feel like because we knew each other's heart and we all knew that what we were orienting towards, it gave us the opportunity to like push through no matter what. I just think it's important to
Yeah.
really, I guess, emphasize that.
Yeah, there were so many conversations where we all said on the calls, so many Zoom calls, we're like, okay, what is our goal? Our goal is for people to hear the gospel. So if we can all agree on that, then there's a solution. And that really was helpful. But I would also say seeing the body of Christ work together, even with both of you. And like in 1 Corinthians, it talks about, we're all given spiritual gifts to edify, which is like to encourage and to build up. And I think seeing it as like, if the hand wasn't working, like we wouldn't function the way it's supposed to. It wouldn't be impactful. If we couldn't walk, if the leg was broken, this wouldn't be impactful or functional. And again, from like production, talent, editor, space, like we did so much at One Church, and that was such a gift. But I look back and like look at all those little puzzle pieces that fit together so perfectly that it's out now. Like that would not have happened without the whole body doing what it needed to do. And I think like, I will be totally honest, there were definitely parts of this process where I made it about me, or like I was like, oh, we're really seeing like this is awesome, and then God humbled me, and I'm like, you're right. Like I had to learn that I'm human. But I just look back and I'm like, wow, because everyone knew that they couldn't do it all, we were able to do it all. It's like the cliche of like, if you want to go, I don't even know the cliche.
But
Go far, go fast, go long, go far,
together.
go together.
That one, yeah.
One other thing just on that point, and I know that mostly like One Church community is going to be listening to this, but like it truly would not have happened without you guys. First of all, Greg, I don't know why you answered the cold DM, so we appreciate that first and foremost. But beyond that, I mean, truly 90% of the footage was shot here at One Church in the different buildings. Brandon, like literally wouldn't be edited without you. So I just appreciate you guys. We appreciate you guys so much. It would not, even the event we're having tomorrow, like all of that is possible because you guys believed in it and gave us a chance. So we really appreciate
Well,
you.
it's fun. It's fun to have a part to play in it, and to watch it come together is really a joy, honestly, and thankful to be included in it. I appreciate what you said about conflict. We actually did a series. Shayla and I did some of it together a few years ago, probably before you guys started coming, actually. But it was called The Secret Sauce, and the series was about conflict. Conflict being a skill, conflict being something that's actually necessary, and if handled right, makes things better, right? So whether it's a marriage, a business, an organization, a church, even relationship to yourself, the ability to have conflict in a healthy way and getting good at it is ultimately, it helps people solve problems. You end up with better things, and it actually cements relationships. Like if you have a friend you've never had a conflict with, it's probably pleasant, but it's not very deep. But you have somebody, you have a conflict and you work through it together, a tough conversation, you got a feeling in the pit of your stomach before you have it, it goes well at the end of it, you're like, man, and you're actually bonded more than if you'd never had it. Of course, the stakes are high because if we mishandle it, we may never talk again, or, we might, have lasting memories and pain and all of that. So that's why it is scary, because you're putting a lot of trust in the other person and yourself to go, we're gonna word things appropriately, and we're gonna give grace when we don't. We're gonna actually try to hear past the words being said into what someone's trying to say. Not everybody's great with words, and a lot of people are so uncomfortable with conflict that they are, they're awkward in how they do it, and not because they're as mad at you as much as they're just overwhelmed. So there's all that going on. But when you see, it's actually, I think, one of the things with our church, we have a lot of areas where we need to grow and develop and get better. But it's been one of the things that's, I think, kept our church in a growth trajectory, and actually our culture has stayed calibrated because of conflict. We've gotten pretty good at it internally, willing to have it, willing to continue to improve on it. And because of that, we are able to work past problems and work through interpersonal conflicts, and then it deepens the relationship. So, I mean, that's a huge takeaway. And like you said, in something like this where you're, it's probably in many ways different. I wouldn't pretend to know what EFU's running that business entails, but when you're doing something like this that is so artistic and it's so different, and so it's going to pull passion out of people in different ways, and people vehemently disagreeing and all of that, and then the nature of again working with the person in the world you love the most, and then somebody you used to just play ball with, and now we're in business, and that's a lot. And to have that as a big, I love that as one of the big takeaways, that like this isn't something to shy away from. It's actually something. In fact, one of the things I remember talking about in that series, Secret Sauce, was it's not about having less conflict. It's about having better conflict, which might mean more. We do it more. We're just better at it, and we get good at it instead of shying away from it. It's going to serve us really well. So that's very cool. Back to the question. I don't want to drag this out, but I don't want to miss anything you guys would want to share. Anything didn't make it in the film that you're like, this needs, this is something we want to mention, or a story related. Maybe it was footage taken, or maybe it was a story related to the making of that you think's worth telling.
I got a funny one. So in the film, G. Scott talks a lot about this red Dodge, is it Charger or Challenger?
Yeah.
Challenger. And how
that was his car, right?
That was his car, and basically, when in a moment of conflict, he effectively escapes the state in this red Dodge Challenger. And so, long story short, our production team does an incredible job of like recreating this scene with a stunt double and all this stuff. But funnily enough, it was really difficult to find a red Dodge Challenger, and so they went on Toro. I don't know if are you guys familiar with that?
Yeah, it's like Uber, but
it's like I describe same. Yeah, Airbnb for cars. Effectively,
Yeah.
You can rent other people's cars. And so they go on Turo and they rent this red Dodge Challenger that they find. Well, the day they're supposed to go do the shoot, which by the way, it's a big production. They have the cops there for the scene, all this stuff. The car gets stolen. And so they're like, oh my gosh, like what are we going to do? Long story short, they end up calling a bunch of dealerships, and one of these dealerships is like, hey man, yeah, you can use the car. So they end up filming the scene. They get it done. A couple of weeks later, we're telling this story to Trey and G on one of our many Zoom calls. And G's like, was the red Dodge Challenger like in Columbus? And we're like, yeah, it was in Columbus. And it was stolen? We're like, yeah. He's like, dude, that was my red Dodge Challenger. My car got stolen. I didn't even realize you guys were the ones renting it for me for this film. So
wait, no way. He was touring his car?
Yes. So it was actually, they didn't know it was him. They Turoed his car, and his car was the one that got stolen.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yes. How wild is that?
I didn't connect that dot.
And I remember being on the Zoom call because he's like, Liv. And she comes in the room. He's like, that those people that called that wanted to use my car for a documentary? It was this documentary.
It was my documentary.
That's so stupid. That's crazy.
Yeah. So that was just a funny little story along the way.
That's awesome. Do you have any things that...
I have two thoughts that come to mind. One is when in the sequence when Travion gets the and whatever the penalty is, personal foul, and
he jumped out of character for a little bit. He got in the flesh. He got a little bit in the flesh.
I want to know what the guy said to him, but he said I can't say.
He wouldn't say. He wouldn't tell.
I pressed him twice on it. He would not even off camera. He wouldn't tell us.
No, what a class act, though. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's a better man than me. I would have said it. I'd have spelled it out.
But by the way, they got mics on the field. Someone knows what
Fact.
he's saying.
It had to be something significant because Trey doesn't just go up and
No.
slap somebody for no reason.
Right.
No.
But the whole sequence happens where essentially the Buckeyes start to slip, and they put up that graphic on screen that's like points before the penalty and yards before the penalty and after the penalty. And it was like a stark difference. And then the next play, Travion had that house call.
Oh, yeah.
And then like the yards were the exact same pre-penalty, post-penalty. The points were the exact same pre-penalty, post-penalty. Like it just felt like one of those little I don't know, like it was like almost one of those coincidences that's like there's no way that's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
But that was I remember seeing that on social media like when it happened and being like, yo, that's crazy.
When Travion took that screen right before the half against Texas to the house, that's definitely a top 3 most memorable play in my life. Like in terms of remembering, I was so mad because they put up. I remember I'm at my house. I'm yelling at the screen because they put up this graphic. They're like blaming. The momentum had shifted. Of course, I know Travion. I know how sincere he is, and he's like, I feel it's almost familial. Like I'm like, I love this dude. And they put up on the screen, basically kind of blaming him. Like there's actually, I think like right around the time he catches the screen, there's like a graphic on the screen of the Buckeyes stats before he got the personal foul and then after.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, they're going to blame this whole thing. Like if this goes sideways, they're going to blame this guy. He's going to have to wear this rest of his life. And in my head, I'm like literally talking to the screen. He catches that thing and goes, and I yelled myself hoarse. Like I lost my voice. I was yelling, like they probably heard me, my neighbors were probably like, what's happening in that house? Like, they were probably watching it too. They probably knew exactly what was happening. But I was like, I felt so proud of him. Like I felt so happy that, here's a guy, he does something. Again, talk about a bigger life lesson. You do something, you're like, why did I just do that? He goes over on the sideline, he's like trying to find some peace and resolution, and then to be able to go out and make up for it, and not stay down. That will be one of the most memorable, plays of my life because it was just such a swing, and I mean he looked like Usain Bolt's dad, running down that sideline. Like he was gone. I mean gone. And it's fun. It's fun on the documentary listening to G talk about that too because he's like, why are we even running this play?
Yeah.
Like, this is like the wrong play. Like, why are we doing? Because he's like, I go out there trying to just get a hand on somebody. I look up and Trey is flying. So okay, a couple things as we kind of bring this in. What are your kind of hopes with this? Like, what are you guys like? Obviously, you've put it out there. Like, are you guys just kind of watching what happens? Is there are there things that you're hoping for that come out of this? No right or wrong answer. I'm just curious.
I think it's really weird because like at this point, I think we just have peace with it. Like we made it for if it was just one person, and it's already gone so much further beyond that. Even
it's
the
hit at least
reception.
2.
Yeah, at least 2. 2 of them are sitting right here, or 4, I guess. We got all of us. But I think we're really like right now it's like promotion pushing. So it'll be really cool over the coming days. There'll be more media pieces and like just different folks coming across. And it's really cool to see some of the folks that we follow on social media that we're not connected with at all that are now starting to watch it and like give their takes. It's been really cool to see that kind of stuff too. So we just hope that like through this process, you watch the film, whether you're a Buckeye fan or not, you find a moment or you can relate to yourself or relate to somebody in the film, whether it's the ending sequence or whether it's like Trey and G's testimony. There's something in there for everybody. And so I think we just hope that people watch it and they're moved by it and ultimately they experience the gospel, especially if they've never heard it before.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better.
So I think to anybody who's watching this who's a believer, I think what Matt and Marlee have done and a whole bunch of people that pulled this together is given an amazing evangelistic tool, something that anybody, whether you're a football fan or not, whether you're a believer or not, it's super engaging and something that people are going to receive the gospel. They're going to be able to watch it, understand it, give them something to think about, and in a way that's not, that I don't think anybody would feel like something's being pushed on them. I think it's inviting them and giving a lot of food for thought. So I would encourage anybody who's a follower of Christ, watch it, engage with it, and share it with others. How can people engage with that? Obviously, they can go on Prime and watch it.
Go on Prime, watch it, then give it 5 stars. If you like it. If
5
you don't
stars.
like it, don't review it.
Yeah. If you don't like, keep it to yourself.
Beyond that, at Watch Redemption on all socials. You can promote it there. That's pretty much it.
I would say one last thing too is I hope that people, even that are listening to this, will take away from you guys specifically, even beyond the content that's made, but your guys' life specifically, is to pray about and to have the courage to take a step of faith in something that God is leading them to do that may be out of their comfort zone, right? So for you guys, it was, hey, we're idea people and we have an idea and we've started a business before, but we've never done this. This is wildly different than anything we've done. And to go ahead and take that step, I mean, what a huge leap of faith, and encourage others, whatever it might be. It may be in a completely different zone. But if you feel God prompting your heart to do something, to take a step, I pray you be encouraged today by Matt and Marlee and their willingness to go, Lord, we believe you're leading us this way. We know we need help. We know we can play a role, but we need a whole bunch of other roles filled. We don't know who's going to fill all of them. We don't know how it's going to come together. We don't even know how this story is going to be. But we're going to take that step, and I encourage you, whatever the step is that God has for you, follow that example. Take that step and trust the Lord, and understand that whatever comes out of the back end of that, whatever product or service or content or whatever that thing is that you end up with, you're going to have something that puts the seed of the gospel into the world, but also it's going to do a work on you. It's going to be a part of your discipleship journey. There's things that God does through us, but while he's doing something through us, he's doing something in us. And so just encourage you to take that step. Guys, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And, let's do this again sometime. It'd be fun. On the next documentary.
Sounds good.
Give us a year.
All right. God bless. Dude, where's that theme music, bro?
I was going to say,
give me my theme music.
This is for all of us.
Oh, nice.
There you go.
So good.